Hey everyone, welcome to October Serger Savvy. This is going to be a fun one today. This was done as a request for Teresa. So if you're here and you want to pop into the chat and say hello and say where you're from, I'd love to hear from you. And as always, if you have any questions or anything else, I'll be happy to answer them. And we do this every second Tuesday of the month at noon Eastern time. And what else? Before we start, though, I just want to send out safe wishes for everybody in the path of Storm Milton. Please stay safe. You know, you can always replace things, and I know that's hard to say when it's your stuff in your home and all of your valuable things, but you and your loved ones, friends and family cannot be replaced, so please don't take a chance. Hi Diana, hi Deirdre, Barbara from Florida. I hope you're someplace north, way north of the storm. Kim, good morning. It's going to be a really bad one. And I have a good friend. I texted her this morning. She lives right in Sarasota, but she apparently is in a safe zone. So Pam, please stay safe. And anyway, so we're going to give everybody a minute to see this one and check in. Hi, Pat, hey, from Danbury. You're right down the road from me. Georgia, from Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. I think that's the coolest name, honestly. It's such a cool name. So, Deirdre's North Carolina. Yay. Diana says she's looking forward to this one. She seems to fight with her Flatlock stitches. Okay, so hopefully we can get that squared away for you, Diana, and show you a little bit of a twist on this. A woman who has taken my classes and follows me had asked me about whether I could show how to create the little X's. This is a technique that Pam Massey developed from Bernina, and it's really, really cute. It's great for all kinds of projects. She used it on a dress, and it was just really cute. Hi, Patricia from the Adirondacks. Carol from Mustang, Oklahoma. Yay, good to see all of you, or good to hear from all of you, I guess. But anyway, this, as always, I try to remember to record it, which I had my little sign, so I did. And you can catch this anytime. If you can't stay for the whole broadcast, you'll catch it on YouTube free of charge. So as always, I'll just do my little housekeeping. If you are thinking about purchasing a Bernina or Bernat machine or software, it has to be from today, going forward from today. I have an ambassador appreciation coupon, and I will be happy to send you one. That is for a $100 rebate, thank you, from Bernina USA, and it is only eligible for people in the United States because it is a Bernina USA or Bernina America offer. So that is a $100 check that you will receive from them. All of the instructions are on it. All you have to do is, again, it's for a future purchase, not one that you already made. And just send me an email, include your mailing address, and I can pop one in the mail to you. And thank you very much for that. Obviously, you all know from that you're on YouTube, so you know my channel. It's youtube.com/Gail Yellen. You can also find my Serger tip clips just by putting in Serger tip clips in the search bar. Carol, yep, we got you. Louise from California, Northern California. Thanks for joining. So, anyway, I just wanted to mention that about the hurricane people, and I hope, let's all say a prayer for them and make sure that they get through this safely. Poor Florida has been, well, that whole southeast area has been really devastated. So anyway, on to something a little bit happier here, or a lot happier, we hope. So we're going to talk about two fun variations for using your reverse flatlock. And as you know, that is the ladder version of the Flatlock stitch. The Flatlock stitch itself is the loop side. This is the reverse Flatlock. And the way I've done that is I have 12-weight decorative thread in a top stitch needle in my left overlock needle position. So I have a wide stitch, and I have serger cone thread in my lower looper. This is a 2-thread reverse Flatlock. If your machine does not have an upper looper converter, and I would say that almost 100% of machines do have them now, you could do a 3-thread, and you'll check your manual for it. I like to do the 2-thread simply because I think it lays flatter. It's easier. So that's what we're going to work with today, and I'll show you all my settings on my machine, and I'll just run off a quick line of it. But then I want to get to the heart of what I want to do today, and that's showing you that fun variation. Sue from South Africa, hey, long way from here. Thanks for joining. Dee Dee from San Diego, thank you. You love my videos and patterns. Well, thanks, and I'm so glad you do. Okay, so let's go over, and I'm going to show you my setup, and as always, I'm on my Bernina L890, but you can do these stitches on, I would say, almost any serger. Now, the one difference is that does vary from other machines is that, as you can see in the photo, this camera shot, this is a 9mm wide reverse Flatlock stitch. The L890 has that 9mm overlock capability, and I do one more little tweak to make it even just a smidge wider, and that's by turning up my micro thread control dial to +2, and that just moves the stitch finger right just a tiny bit and widens out my stitch a little bit more from that preset 9mm setting. So just to go over those settings again, I have my left overlock needle in with a top stitch needle because I need that bigger eye for the 12-weight decorative thread to go through. That's where the decorative thread is on the stitch in my top stitch needle, and serger cone thread in my lower looper. So let's go over to the screen first just to look at my setup and talk about my settings on that. So you can see, let me just grab something that's not quite so pointy on the screen. I don't want to ding it. On my left needle, I have changed my settings from the preset ones, the default settings in the machine. Let's just go to the default settings and you'll see. This is stitch number 11. You see that here, 2-thread Flatlock wide. LN is my left needle. My stitch length is on 2.5. I'm going to leave it there. My needle is up. Again, I have needle up, needle down here. I'll leave it up. And I'm going to be working on a quilting weight cotton, which is woven. And so I'm going to leave my differential feed on 1. But I already changed these to the settings that I like. Now, I will say that even with the L890s, when I've done events where I've had a room full of them and we're doing a 2-thread Flatlock, so on some machines, I may have my settings the way you see them. Left needle is on 1. It's very low to keep that needle thread loose so that I can pull the stitch flat. And my lower looper is on 9. However, there are variations, and I've mentioned this analogy before in my classes where I say that sometimes your neighbor may have the exact same year, make, and model car, and you get in their car and drive it, and it feels a little bit different than your car. And it's just, there's nothing wrong with either one. It's just a little nuance between the machines. So I'm going to pull my table in just a smidge, just so that when I turn to the camera, my microphone is a little closer. I just want to be sure that you can hear me clearly. So anyway, let's go and look at the default settings on this. And as always, all you have to do is tap those settings and it will bring you right back to the default setting. I know a lot of times when people hear tensions, they're tense because they're afraid they'll never get their machine back to the original settings on that. So this one, the default setting is 1.5. The lower looper setting is 4.5. And those would be perfect if both of my threads were the same weight. Like if I was using Serger cone thread in my needle and lower looper. But because there is a significant difference between the weight of 12 weight cotton thread in the needle versus Serger cone thread in the lower looper, I need to adjust them to get the look that I want. So I drop my lower looper tension, and it kind of makes sense when you think about it. I have a heavier thread in my left needle, so I want to lighten up how much effort it's going to take to pull that stitch flat with that heavier thread. So I'm going to, excuse me, drop the tension just a little bit. I'm going to bring it all the way down to 1. And you can see that anytime I change something from the default setting, it gets that yellow frame around the setting, as well as the number goes from black to yellow also. And I'm going to really crank up my lower looper tension from 4.5. I'm going to double it all the way up to 9. So, and now I'm going to click out of there, and it shows up on my screen as that. So, and again, depending when I go to an 8 weight thread, which is even heavier than 12 weight, I vary that setting a little bit more even. So it just depends on the type of thread that you're using and your machine. But you always want to remember that if you've got your heavier decorative thread in your needle, that tension needs to be considerably lower than your lower looper tension. So let's just do a real quick reverse flatlock, and I'm going to show you my little secret because somebody just yesterday, after the announcement was posted on Instagram and Facebook about what today's Serger Savvy was going to be, somebody asked me about getting the fabric to lay flat under the stitch. So I'm going to show you my little trick. So let's go to the presser foot. Okie doke. And I'm just going to run this off very quickly. It's just a real, I don't even need the full length of this. Let me make sure my edges are together. You can see I've been really into my pinking shears lately so that I get off all the raggedy edges. But I'm going to just move my seam guide. I have my seam guide on. That's what this is, if you're wondering. And that just clips on. It's like a little clothespin in the back. You clip it on and clip it off and position it wherever you want it to go and for how much you want the edge to be trimmed off. So let's put the presser foot down. I'm leaving my stitch length on 2.5. I think this works well. That length works well. It's not a hard and fast rule. If you want to try your stitch to be shorter or longer, by all means, definitely do that. So, and just test it out on your test fabric. You know what I have to say about that. There's that Bermuda burp. Okay, and so let's just do a little bit of this on this. I didn't think we needed to do the full length of the fabric. Let me just cut off the excess length on this green fabric. Okay. All right, so let's go over to the table shot so you can see what I do with this. Okay, so I'm going to move this one. I've got this one all set to go, and I'm going to show you that variation. Get my other stuff out of the way. So Here is my stitch coming off of the machine. Let me lighten this up just a smidge. There we go. Okay, so this is my needle thread. This is my lower looper thread. It kind of looks like a regular 3-thread wide almost. But then I'm going to open up the fabrics and just pull them. Just like this. Here we go. Here we are. Now, somebody yesterday asked me, you can see there's a little bit of a fold of this top fabric in this. So what I do, here's a very technical piece of equipment that I use. It's a shish kebab skewer. Just like this, it's skinny. If you have a really thin knitting needle, you can use it. Anything thin, but just make sure it kind of has a blunt end so that you don't snag your stitches. So what I want to do is I get that inside that fold. I hold my fabric with my fingers, and let me just see if I can brighten that a smidge more, and I'm going to bring it in just a little bit more so you can see even better. There we go. I think that's pretty good. I bring the shish kebab skewer, it's right under the fold. You can probably see how it lifts it. And I just nudge it over, just like this. Super easy to do. Now, if you have a really long seam, good luck. You can do it. You'll have to squish up your fabric and kind of wrinkle it up a little bit, but then you can press that out. And then I go from the other end and just pull that flat. Now, if I wasn't doing a video, before I would do anything else, I'd just give this a press to flatten it out. But now you don't see that fold on the inside. That fabric lays flat. Now, let me just go back to me for a second. If you have a narrower stitch, maximum stitch width, like 7.5, some machines it's 7, you may not have enough room to get that fold all the way out. But if you give it a good press, guess what? It'll be perfectly fine. Oh, hey, Dagmar from Germany. Hello. Oh, we've got an international audience today. This is exciting. So thank you for joining. So anyway, that's the way I take care of that fold. Now, my friend Teresa, who emails me, had asked to show this technique. And as I say, this was not my original technique. This is something that Pam Massey dreamed up, and I thought it was really cute. So let me just show you what we're going to do with these. I'm going to go back to this original fabric that I had because I ran this off yesterday. Let me go back to that camera. We're going to do it on this fabric. And let me just show you the 2 variations that we're going to do. This is the first one that creates little X's. Isn't that adorable? Super cute. Then, and that's pulling 2 of the Flatlock ladders together. Then the second variation is pulling 3 together, and it kind of makes stars. But I ran off some black fabric after this yesterday with an 8-weight metallic thread, and let me just show you what that one looks like. Doesn't that look like butterflies? I thought this was so pretty. And I'm going to lower the exposure a little bit so because I think it really blows out the black fabric. But look how pretty that is. And now I see all the lint that I forgot to take off, but that's okay. We'll just focus on how pretty these are. So let me lower this exposure just a smidge more even. And this is a gold metallic, which doesn't really show up super well on camera. But I thought these kind of looked like butterflies. So hello from Ontario. So let's see how we do this. Now, while I'm here, I used black thread, just regular black thread, to pull the ladders together on this one. Now, whether you choose to use a thread that matches the Flatlock ladder color or your base fabric color is up to you. When you use a thread that matches the ladder color, you have to remember that you're going to see a straight line of that from each set of ladders that you've pulled together. You'll see that right in between. Whereas if you match your base fabric, let me go back to this one again. If you match your base fabric, you can see it a little bit here, but it really pretty much disappears. But again, if I used a lime green on this, it would be very obvious in between the ladders that are pulled. So, but there's no right or wrong to it. It's all a matter of what you like it to do. So I am going to put these aside for a minute. Any questions so far before I, let me go back to me for a second. Any questions about that before I actually show you how to do this? It's just, it's easy. It takes a little bit of time, but again, it's one of those things that you can do very easily while you're doing watching TV or listening to something, a podcast or something like that. And Mary Sue says, please allow captioning. And I'm not sure how to do that, Mary. Let me find out about how to do that, and I will make sure that I have that from for the next one in November. So, Dagmar's asking, do I make a knot? I'm going to just show you how I start that right now. So I'm going to go back to the table camera. And let me pull, I'm going to move my other pieces out of the way and my shish kebab skewer. So what I did was I threaded a needle. I think this is like not an upholstery needle. I don't know what it is. But anyway, you can see it's got a blunt end on it. I'm going to brighten this up. You can see this has a blunt end on it. And that way I won't catch it. And I've got a double strand of thread that's it's a little bit darker than my fabric, but close enough. But I could have used the blue as well. It doesn't matter. And so I do knot the end of this first to start. Now, what I'm going to do is, let me just get this thread organized. I'm going to pull this all over so that I stay close to the microphone. So I'm going to start down at the bottom, and I'm just going to go around that one ladder, and I am going to tie a knot. So I'm just going to thread that through and tie it off, and hopefully that'll end up down toward the end of the thread. Just like that. All right, so that kind of anchors it right there. Now, if I'm doing two at a time, I'm coming under two of the ladders. Let me get this out of the way. I'm coming under there. I'm going to loop it around again. And then what I like to do with this thread is I take my needle and just loop it right through there. And that more or less anchors it. And I give it a pull. Now you want to make sure that you pull it snug so that you do get that little X. And then I go under it one more time and then come up to the next two ladders. Can you see that? So I'm going to go under the existing one more time, come through here, and that also snugs up that thread that is around the first X. Okay, so now it's just repetition. I'm going to come through, come under the next, these two ladders, loop my thread through, give it a pull, and it kind of automatically goes into the center of those ladders to give you that X. Come under my new X and go up to the next two. Up. And you see how that snugs up the previous one? It works pretty well. Let me get that thread out of the way, just so it doesn't confuse the issue. And then let's do it again. I'm under these two ladders, come under again, bring my needle right through my loop of thread, pull it, come under one more time on this one, okay, and then up to this one, under, through my loop, pull it under there, one more time under the X now, up to the next two. And it's just like this all along the whole thing. And you can kind of see, now you're seeing it very up close. If you were looking at this probably from, if I had a slightly lighter orange thread, that would pretty much disappear when you're looking at it. But we've got a close-up camera on it, so it really is very prominent. So this is the way you do this. And it's kind of one of those things, it's sort of a relaxing type of thing because it's very repetitive. And, oops, as long as you don't get a knot in your thread like I just did, it's super easy to do. Hang on. Let me see if I can get rid of that. Well, no, not quite. But anyway, I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to come up to the next one. I can just trim that away probably, and nothing will happen. There. Go on. Now, let's do it one more time, and then let's do it with 3 ladders. And let me brighten that up just a smidge. Okay, there we are. So let's do it one more time. So under the 2, loop under one more time, come through that loop, snug it up, pull it under the X you just made. Now let's do it with the 3, and that's what makes that look like a star or a butterfly. And I think that the way it looks probably kind of depends on the weight of the thread that you're using and how contrasty it is. But it's just a fun thing to do, and it gives your projects a totally different look. I have a gazillion, or not a gazillion, but I've got a number of different videos on YouTube that show how to do a flat lock and a reverse flat lock. So it's pretty easy, and as I say, most machines will do that. Now I'm under 1, 2, 3, and it's the exact same process. So I'm going to come under, loop through, and then pull the 3 of them together. And you can see that looks a little bit different than the double X's. Kind of looks like a star or an asterisk. Come under the 3, go up to the next 3. Snug that one up. Under, loop it through my thread. Go under that one and come up to the next 3. Okay. So you can see it looks much more complex than actually doing it. But you don't have to tell anybody that. You can just say, oh yes, it's a very specialized technique. Except for your sewing friends. You might want to tell them because it is fun to do. So just like this, let's do it one more time. And under, snug it up. And I would just continue along to finish out the end. And you'd have a really, really cute looking technique on a garment. You could do it on anything that you're doing, like even a Christmas stocking. I have something with reverse flatlock ladders on it. In fact, I may make another one this year and add this little technique in. I think it would be fun. But let's take another look at it on the black. I'm going to lower that exposure. There we go. Actually, it does show up a little bit. You can see there's a metallic filament in this thread. So it's really kind of cool looking. And then here it is on this variegated fabric. And you can see what I'm talking about with that line of thread that travels between the stars or the butterflies or the X's. It's very subtle, but again, we're looking at it with a super close-up camera. You probably wouldn't even notice it on a project that you're doing. But if you chose to do it with that, you would, with a bright green or the gold, you would most definitely see that between those X's. So, hey, Chris from Plano. So, and then, let me come back to me. When I would get to the end of it, if it was something that I would probably do another knot through the fabric itself. I'd clip the threads out of the blunt end needle, and I would put it in just a regular hand sewing needle, pull it to the wrong side of the fabric, and knot it off. And that way I know it will stay put and stay secure. But if you're stitching it into another seam, I think that would hold it as well. I would just not cut a super short tail on the wrong side. I would just leave a long enough thread tail that it stays put. But I always tend to knot things off on the wrong side, just to be sure that nothing comes out. And a lot of my samples travel around and people like to photograph them and handle them. So sometimes they can get a little more wear and tear than in typical everyday use. Let me see who else we have. Ontario. Chris from Plano, thanks. Deirdre. Deirdre says she assumes that this is a decoration for a pillow or a garment. Yes, it can be. Let me think of some things that you could do this on. You could do it on a bag, a purse, a tote bag, if you're doing some flat locking someplace. Definitely a pillow. It would be super cool on a pillow. And I even think if you use that 8-weight thread, it would be very bold. The 12-weight certainly is bold, but 8-weight is even thicker. So you could do it on any kind of home decor items, bags. As I said, Pam Mashi did it on, I think it was like a children's dress, and it was adorable. And I said she should name it Flatlocks and do, instead of LOCKS, do LOXX, because it formed the X's. So, and Louise said it would be fun to put a bead in the wrap center. Absolutely, it would. Yes, and I would definitely be on board with that because I love beading and I think it's super, super cool to do. So yes, most definitely. I'm glad you mentioned it because I forgot to. But putting a bead in it would be super pretty. And I think if you put a button in, it would be too big and it would cover the whole thing, so why bother? But definitely a bead. But, oh, Kathy, hi, you're just seeing this. Good, I'm glad you did. I hope, Kathy, I Kathy is, she had asked me something about this with keeping the ladders even. I had shown this a few minutes ago. This is, oh, let me switch cameras. I guess you can't see without that. I'm going to lighten this up again. I took a shish kebab skewer and went under the fabric, and I just coaxed that fold out of the fabric, just like this. And then I give it a press, and that gives you a nice even look along the edge. Okay, so that's that. So let me go back to me, but yes, I'm so glad. Thank you, Louise, for mentioning putting a bead in the middle, because that's fine. Suzanne, you're great. You're from North Carolina. Thank you. You're not late, because you can always catch the beginning of this on YouTube. It automatically is going to record, so you'll catch the whole thing on my YouTube channel. So are there any questions? You could, if you wanted to do something that was a little bit lighter with thread, you could use all-purpose thread or your Serger cone thread and do that. It wouldn't have the pop and pizzazz that the 12 or 8 weight threads do, but you definitely could do that with it. And again, you'd probably want to adjust your tensions accordingly. As I said, if I were using Serger cone thread in the needle as well as my lower looper, I could leave those default settings. But because I'm using something considerably heavier in the needle, I adjusted both tensions so that I would get the stitch that I liked. Yeah, so that's all there is to it. It looks much more complex than it is. So anyway, does anyone have any questions about this technique or anything else that they're working on and doing? I did a class. Hey, Jean, another one from South Africa. This is so interesting. Thanks for joining. I did a class on specialty feet and accessories a couple of weekends ago, and I did it part 1 and part 2, and that is available. The replay is available. Part 1 and part 2 are 2 separate classes, because I did the first one September 14th and the second one was September 28th. Those are available. And I did show the belt loop folder, which is going to be coming, I'm not sure when. I've heard a few different dates. I don't know whether it's going to be November or when, but that will be available in 3 different sizes. And also the 1-inch hemmer or the 25 millimeter hemmer. And I had an email from somebody who looked up the part on that one, and it said C3125, and she wasn't quite sure if that meant there were different sizes on that hemmer. I'm not quite sure whether there will be other sizes available, but the C31 is the part number or the accessory number. That's just to label it as the 1-inch hemmer. The 25 millimeters is the width of the hem when you use that hemmer. Would that work? Pat asked, would this technique, are you asking about the flat locking technique, Pat? Because if you are, absolutely it will. I did mention your maximum width on your stitch on the Triumph, I know this because I have one, is 7.5. So you won't have as wide a flat lock stitch. But yes, you can definitely do this technique on your Triumph. You can do a 2-thread flat lock on that machine, most definitely. The thing you have to remember is to make sure you hook in your upper looper converter, and I believe Baby Lock calls that a subsidiary looper. So, oh, somebody said to do this on a pillowcase, the burrito method. Yes. Deirdre said she was doing a burrito pillow and it kept twisting badly. Any recommendations? I did 2 successful and then Gremlins. It was, I hate to say it, but it was probably operator error. That if you did them successfully before, probably something just got twisted up. And while we're talking about mistakes, this is like, I can't believe I did this, but I'll tell you about that in a minute. Suzanne said she loved the classes, and she ordered the spare cover stitch table from Bernina World of Sewing in Raleigh, and she's going to be ordering the new feet too, or the new attachments. I don't have the prices on those feet and attachments, unfortunately. I guess she was asking about the cover hem table, and Suzanne said that she paid under $20 for that cover hem table. If you're wondering what we're talking about, we are, let me see, where did I put mine? Here's this one. This was like a genius thing. This is the cover hem insert that when you're doing overlocking, you have your knife guard on. Let me back out that camera a little bit just so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. You have your knife guard on, and then when you want to do cover stitching or chain stitching, you just take that one off, put it off to the side, and you slide on your cover hem insert, and you also need to lock down your upper looper, because you can see this won't close if it's up. But while we're looking at this, I'm going to turn my light on the machine so that you can see this, so that you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so right here, I'm going to brighten up my screen a little bit. This is the upper looper converter right here. And this is what you have to hook in, or a subsidiary looper, it's called on the Baby Lock machines. Because you're doing a 2-thread flat lock, let me see if I can get a better, yeah, here we go. That's better with the light off, actually. This is your upper looper converter or subsidiary looper. There is no thread in a 2-thread flat lock in your upper looper, so you have to close the eye. And the other thing that the upper looper converter does is it helps the lower looper thread travel so that the needle thread can grab it. So if you're trying to do a 2-thread stitch, and you step on the foot control and it stitches but no stitches form, chances are you forgot to put this on. So just make sure you do have that. So I'm going to flip that back and show you with the cover hem table. I'm going to lock that down, and this knob just to the right is what locks that down. And now I can close that. And on mine, I have to change my stitch width down. I would also put my knife down typically for cover stitching. But the other thing that that I showed in the class is if you buy a second table, and some places it is under $20. It's not an expensive part. Take this off. What I do is I have a second one, and I keep my attachment, let me get that out of the way. I have my attachment holder right on it, so that I don't have to fuss around and screw and unscrew this all the time. And it sounds like a goofy thing, but honestly, it is such a time saver and so convenient. And I have my belt loop folder on there right now. So, but you can change that out and put on any attachment. So I leave my cover hem table or cover hem insert with this attached. And then if I'm using my belt loop folder, my 1-inch hemmer, my double fold binder, whatever, all I have to do is grab that, screw it on, and I'm ready to roll. So I'm trying to do this around the camera, so hang on. There we go. Okay, so that's what we're talking about on that. Oh, Deirdre said she wouldn't be she's a new user, so error wouldn't surprise me. Yes. I do tend to think that since you did the burrito method successfully on 2 of them, I think on the one that got tangled, something just went kaflooey, and trust me, we've all done that. And sometimes it's on something you do a lot. So let me tell you, this is when you know you need to shut your machine off and call it a night. I was downstairs and I'm working on my new table runner pattern, and I was finishing up one that is going to be the cover shot for it. And I'm putting my binding on, and I'm about 3/4 of the way around it. And all of a sudden, I realized I forgot to put the backing fabric on, because I was looking at the batting on the underside, and I was like, I can't believe I did. I've never done that before. And how crazy is that? So anytime you make a mistake like that, don't beat yourself up. We've all done crazy stuff, and sometimes you're tired or you're thinking about something else while you're working on it, and you just get distracted mentally. So that's what I'm chalking it up to anyway. So Kathy says a second table is the best way to work with the attachment holder. Yes, it makes it sounds like, what's the big whoop just to put it on, and it isn't a big deal, but it's just the fact that once it's on, you just grab it, change it out, and boom, done. Kathy goes, oops. Yes, oops is right. I was just, when I ever saw that I forgot to put the backing fabric on, I was like, ay. And I said, you know what? Time to shut the machine off, step away from the machine, and do something else, because it was late, and it was probably past my bedtime or something. So anyway, that's the scoop on that. So that's just a little inside thing that I thought you would find quite entertaining, and that way you don't have to feel bad about doing stuff that is crazy yourself. So I've never done it before, and chances are from now on, and I've mentioned this in class, how do we learn stuff, not to do stuff like that a second and third or fourth time? Usually it's because it's a pain in the neck. Now I have to take my seam ripper, rip out the binding that I did that was coming out very nicely, I might add, and start over again. But I guess if that's the worst thing that happens, then I think we're all in good shape. Let's see. Louise says, which of the 2 classes has the new unreleased feet? Louise, part 1 of the specialty feet and techniques class is mostly all, I think it was all overlock techniques, and all of those feet are available now, and they have been for quite a while. Part 2 is the one that had the double fold binder, which has been available for quite a while. Double fold, the single fold binder. I showed the belt loop folder that is available in 3 sizes. The finished width on those, the narrowest one is 3/8 inches wide, then 5/8 and 7/8 for finished sizes on those. Those are coming. And then the other one is the 25 millimeter hemmer, which is a 1-inch hem. And that also is winding its way toward the sewing world soon. I don't have a release date on that or when it will be available at your dealer, but I would say, even though you can't have it in your hands right now, pre-order it so that when they do come in, you'll be one of the first ones in line to receive it. So, and again, if you want to order all 3 sizes, it's handy. I don't like doing a commercial for my classes because that's not what you tuned in for. But I can just quickly show you the sizes. Hang on a second. Okay, let me move some of this stuff out of the way. And I'll show you the 3 sizes on the belt loop folder. Oops, I think I've got 2 of the same here. Hang on, one more. Here we go. Yeah. Okay. Let me change cameras. Move this. Okay, so here's the 7/8 inch one. This is a quilting weight cotton that you're looking at. That's the 7/8 inch. This is the 5/8. This is the 3/8. Now, I will tell you, the 3/8 one is really nice for a very slim strap on, say, or a little narrow wristlet strap on a bag. Or if you're doing a crossbody bag and you want a narrow one, I'd go with the 3/8 one. The 5/8 one is really nice for a lot of different things. If you wanted purse straps or a slightly narrower strap on a tote, or I would probably go to the 7/8 one for that one. And because they're lightweight fabrics, I would probably use something like grosgrain ribbon to interface with, and or Peltex works also. That's fine to use for straps too. That will help keep them in good shape, and they're also great for weaving. I can give you a quick sneak peek of that too. This is the pattern that will be coming out. I'm getting quite a collection here on my table. Hang on a second. Let me grab that. And put that. Oh, let me show you the wrong side of this too, just so that you can see. I use a 3-thread wide stitch, which sounds very wide for a narrow strap, but I use it on all of them. And I mentioned in the class the reason being that this one has better contrast. Let me show you that one. The reason being is that way I know I am going to catch both edges that fold under. You could technically use a narrow cover stitch, but you've got very, very minimal wiggle room for catching one edge or the other. So if your folder is not precisely positioned on your machine, you'll probably miss one or the other. And honestly, when you get right down to it, does it matter from the right side what it looks like? No. Now, another variation on this is you could use in your chain looper, you could use decorative thread or even multiple decorative threads with thread fusion, and use this as the right side, and it would be really, really pretty. So let me just show you one other thing that you can do with that. This is what I'm talking about, the one without the backing fabric on. So I'll be ripping off the binding that I've done, but that's another story. So what I did on this one, this is one of the windows that's on it. Let me tip this down and bring it out a little bit. So they're great for weaving, and this is the narrowest belt loop folder. And I used all the different fabrics that are in this table runner and just ran off long strips of it and put it on a lightweight fusible interfacing after I had everything woven and kind of all moved together and everything else. And there's one more technique. I'm not going to show it in one of the other windows because I'm going to do a tip clip on it, but it's really, really pretty. So stay tuned for that. Let me just check the comments again. Go to me. Okay, I'm going to toss this over. I'm not going to show you my boo-boo on the other side, but it's there. Trust me. Okay, So anyway, Louise, so the second, part 2 would be the one that you're looking for to answer your question. And Deirdre says, work smarter, not harder. Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, and Louise says, I'll start with 2 both. I'll take both. I'm already on my dealer's list for 3 belt loop folders. And that's good. Oh, great. Okay, well, Bobby, thank you. I'm glad that you like it too. The weaving is so pretty. And again, it's one of those things when you're doing weaving with those. And Suki Sews also has a fun pattern. It's like a little table mat that she did. And I can't remember the name of her pattern. I think she used a wider, I don't think hers were woven now that I think about it. I think they were kind of laid side by side. But anyway, it's a very cute pattern. So, oh, Suzanne, thank you. She said, I have creative ideas and I'm the reason she bought the L890. Well, thank you, but the L890 is really, it's a great machine. There are lots of very good sergers out there and everything else, but I really have to say I like using the L890. Simply, I love that 9mm stitch. I really do. So, are there any other questions? Do you want to take one more look at my little X's and see how to do those? I'll be happy to. I think we've got about 3 minutes left. Does anyone, before I do that, does anyone have any more questions or comments? Or I am going to plan to do a Serger Savvy doing the Christmas balls, because who can believe it's October already? And I think I'm going to do that in the November one, just to give you all ideas about how to do those Christmas balls. I do have a couple of videos up on YouTube already. One that I did this past year and one I think I did a couple of years ago. On 2 different designs for those Christmas balls, and I'll pick an entirely different one for the Serger Savvy. And I'm going to see what my timing looks like because I have a little bit of traveling in between. But if I can get in 2 Serger Savvies in November and then one in early December, I think that would be good. And that way we'll have enough time to look at everything. And maybe if we can have people, if you've already got some of your those ornamental balls all set to go, if you want to shoot me some pictures or we can show those in the Serger Savvy, that would be really fun. I don't know if any of you noticed it last year, but in December I featured a different ball that I had done every single year. So, or not every single year, but every single day. So right up till December 31st, and I had one that was kind of more just wintry, not holiday, but wintry probably for New Year's, not Christmas or Hanukkah. And I did mix in some Hanukkah ones too. And we use those on our Christmas Eve dinner table because I think you've probably seen pictures of my whole family on there. I think I've done pictures with them in it, or maybe just the table itself. But usually we have about 34 people, I think, for dinner, and that's just my immediate family. So anyway, well, we're getting to 12:59. So if you have any suggestions of things to do for upcoming Serger Savvies, this was Teresa's idea, and I was very happy to show it. Let's take one last look at these again. So here is the one we worked on today, and I still have my needle and thread attached to it. There's that one. Here's the X's with the 2 ladders put together. Here are 3 that create kind of a star. It also, another thing it kind of looks like is a bow, a star, and this black one, which I just think looks like butterflies. I just think it's so pretty. This one. They remind me of monarch butterflies. So those are those. So try out those techniques. They're really fun to do. And again, let me know if you have any ideas for upcoming Serger Savvies or tip clips. So thank you all for tuning in today. And if you couldn't see the whole thing, or you're telling your friends about it, they can catch it on YouTube. It is recorded automatically over there. So thank you again. And I will see you on Zoom or on YouTube soon enough. Thanks, Dee Dee. And everybody, please stay safe because of the storm. That is just like freaking me out that we've had two bad ones so quickly. So please, please, please stay safe. You're the most important thing, and so are your friends and family. So take care. Thanks. Bye-bye.